Well, good morning. My name is Ed Zucchero, and this is lesson 3 in my lessons on problem solving. As always, I try to start out each class with a real-life math story that shows how important math is in the real world. Oh, I forgot. As always, behind me, Einstein, Socrates, and Da Vinci will be in the class. So, a real-life math story. This actually happened to my wife and I. We took a trip to Rome and we were on a bus. We were about to get off the bus for an 8-hour walk around Rome. And unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to get back to the bus in the middle of that walk, so we needed to dress properly for the temperature and the weather. And they were all Americans on the bus, and in the front of the bus it said the temperature was 20 degrees Celsius. Since they were all Americans, no one knew what 20 degrees Celsius meant. So we asked our tour bus driver what that means. And he said, I could never convert to Fahrenheit. I never knew how. It's a little cold, but not real cold. It's not hot, but he said it's sort of in between. But people wanted a temperature, so they knew what kind of coat or sweater to wear. And he just apologized, said, I just don't know how to change from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Now, I had met a college math professor on the trip, and I was sitting next to him, and he raised his hand and said, I'll show you how to do it. So the tour bus driver was very thankful and said, sure, tell me how to do it. So the college math professor said, all you have to do is multiply the 20 by 9/5 and add 32. And the tour bus driver's eyes rolled back in his head, and he said, that's why I can't do it. I can't multiply with fractions. I don't know how to do that. So I asked the tour driver if I could try to teach him how to convert. So I showed him a little different way of how to change Celsius to Fahrenheit, and it is the math problem solving technique number 3, which is a very powerful problem solving technique for certain types of problems. So here is what I showed him. I drew a picture of a function machine on a napkin, and let me show you what I drew. So the Celsius to Fahrenheit function machine is times 2 minus 10% plus 32. So let's do that with the temperature of 20 degrees. We'll put 20 degrees Celsius in, multiplied by 2, that's easy. That's 40 degrees. Minus 10%. 10% of any number is pretty easy to find. So this one comes out even, it's 4. So you subtract 10% or subtract 4, we get 36. And then add 32, it's 68. So that is the easiest way for me to change Celsius into Fahrenheit. And when I travel in Europe, this is how I do it. I can do it in my head. You don't have to multiply with fractions. And the tour bus driver took my napkin, asked if he could keep that. He just thought this was a cool way to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And my math professor friend that I met was real offended. He said, you told him the exact same thing I did. Now, in reality, you get to the exact same answer, but this way with a function machine is much easier to do. So let's try another one. So say you had a European thermometer and you were sick and it said you had a temperature of 37 degrees Celsius and you're not familiar with it, you want to change it to Fahrenheit. So let's put it into the Celsius to Fahrenheit function machine. So 37 times 2, of course, is 74. Now 10% of 74 is 7.4. You can round it if you want to 7. Or if it was 76, you could round to 8 and you'll get a very close answer. But let's be exact. So it's 7.4. I'm going to subtract 7.4, get 66.6, add 32, 98.6. And those of you remember in Fahrenheit, when you take your temperature, the normal on most thermometers, it's written as 98.6. So let's show how powerful function machines are for different types of problems. They're nice for Celsius to Fahrenheit, but there's hundreds of ways you can use function machines. And functions are a part of higher math, so it's good to learn those at upper elementary school, middle school, and high school. Obviously, you'll use functions. So here's a problem that might be on SAT test or a math contest. The sequence 7, 16, 25, 34. The next number is very easy. It's 43 because you can see if you look carefully you're adding 9 each time. So the next number is 43, but the question doesn't ask you for the next number. It asks you for the 100th number. Now you can add 9 and keep going the 5th term of the sequence, the 6th, 7th, but it'll take a lot of time, and adding 9 all those times you're bound to make a mistake. So let's see how a function machine can be used here. So we are going to make the first part of our function machine is times 9 because there's 9 in between each one. So we're putting the first term a 1. The first term you label as 1. We put that into the function machine. We want a 7 to come out. So we know the first part of this function machine is times 9. So 1 times 9 is 9. 7 didn't come out. So the second part of our function machine is very easy. If we have 9 and want to get to 7, it's just minus 2. So we put the 1 in right here. Put the 1 in, times 9 is 9, minus 2 is 7. There we go. We have our function machine. Now let's test it with the second term right here. We'll test it with the second term. Put a 2 in. 2 times 9 is 18, minus 2 is 16. Perfect. That's just what we wanted. So now we go out to the 100th term, or if the question was the 1000th term. It's very easy to do. So we'll put 100 in, times 9 is 900, minus 2 is 898. So with a function machine, you can get the answer to this question in seconds as opposed to 10, 20 minutes if you had to do it all by hand. And you're much more accurate with a function machine. So let's show how function machines can be used for primary grades. This is a fun way to practice basic facts. Put the number 5 through this function machine. And I've just drawn a sample function machine. You can make a function machine with 100 different parts or 10 different parts. This one I've just done 3 different parts. So you put the 5 in, 5 plus 7, so you're working on basic facts. That's 12, then double it, 24, subtract 10, you get 14. So you can draw fancy different parts of the function machine. It just makes practicing basic facts more fun. All right. So each class I've promised I will show something what my trail camera found. Now I have woods behind my house. I live in Iowa. So when you see what my trail camera found, this was couple months ago, you'll be surprised in Iowa. So take a look. And for those who don't know what a trail camera is, it's a camera that's activated by motion. So I get all kinds of animals that I pick up on my trail camera. So take a look at what I found. So if you look carefully, look at this. I was shocked when I saw this, when I looked on my trail camera SD card. So it looks like a tiger. It's not. I'm from Iowa. If I was from a different continent, I might say that's a tiger. But it looks like a tiger. It's actually a bobcat. Very, very elusive. I've been lived in this area for 35 years. I've seen one bobcat in 35 years. So my trail camera picks them up all the time now. And for those who like the problem-solving methods, I have a book I've written that has about 20 of them, and it's available on Amazon or my website I'll give you at the end of the class. So here's some problems for you to try. There's level 1, level 2, and genius level. And what I will do, I will come back in a little while and show you how to solve them. So what you might want to do is freeze your video, do the problems, and then when you're done, start it up again. I'll show you how to solve them. So I'll see you back in a little bit. All right, here are the answers. We'll start with level 1. The sequence 3, 8, 13, 18. What's the 100th term? Now the next number is 23, of course, because it's pretty obvious you're adding 5 each time. So we'll use a function machine. And because there's 5 in between each one, the first part of the function machine will be times 5. So we're putting a 1 in for the first term. We want 3, but the first part of the function machine is times 5. 1 times 5 is 5. We want 3 to come out. So of course we have to put a minus 2 to get a 3. Now let's put the second term in, and let's see if our function machine works. If it works for this one, then we'll go on and answer the question, the 100th term. So we'll put a 2 in. 2 times 5 is 10, minus 2 is 8. Perfect. Let's go on to the 100th term. 100 times 5, 500 minus 2, 498. Very quick way to solve problems like this. All right, let's go to level 2. Now here's decimals that mess it up a little bit. 1.5, 1.25, 2, 2.75, and 3.5. If you look at it carefully, you can see it's going up by 0.75 each time. So the next term is 4.25, but we want the 100th term. So the function machine, because it's going up by 0.75 each time, is times 0.75. So we put a 1 in. We want 1.25 to come out, but 1 times 0.75 is 0.75. To get up to 1.25, of course, we have to add 0.5. All right, perfect. Let's test it on the second term right here. Put a 2 in, times 0.75 is 1.5, plus 0.5 is 2. That's just what we wanted. So we can say we have an accurate function machine. Let's go out to the 100th term and put that in. 100 times 0.75 is 75. Plus 0.5 is 75.5. Very quick way to solve this type of problem. All right, let's go on to the genius level problem. This is one of my favorite facts. So I'll tell you what I mean by that when we get to the end of this. So you have a Celsius temperature of -40. So our Celsius to Fahrenheit machine, if you remember from the beginning of the class, is times 2 minus 10%. So we put -40 in, times 2 is -80. Now we're going to subtract 10%. This is a little tricky. Be careful. So what is 10% of -80? Of course, it's 8, but it's not a positive 8. It's a -8. So 10% of -80 is -8 degrees, and we're subtracting that. So we're subtracting a -8 degrees. If you remember your facts, if you're subtracting a negative, it changes it to a positive. So -80 degrees plus 8. So you want it to be 8 degrees warmer, plus 8. So it's going to end up being -72. So you have -72 plus 32, the last part of the function machine. You want it 32 degrees warmer, so you end up with -40. So this problem is very interesting. Negative degrees Celsius is equal to negative degrees Fahrenheit. So it's the only temperature, I believe, in Celsius where it's the exact same thing in Fahrenheit. -40 degrees Celsius equals -40 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you got that right, print out this Einstein Award and sign your name for it, a Genius Award. And if you'd like to look at any of the books I've written, please go to my website there, or they can be purchased on Amazon. And I will have another class next week, and I'll try to do one every week that I have time through the spring and summer. And I may put in a bonus class in a few days on statistics. And don't let that scare you. This is the fun part of statistics. This is how people manipulate them. And it's very important to know so you don't get fooled by advertisers or different political parties or trying to spin something. So look for that class. And again, don't let the word statistics scare you away, because I guarantee it will be a lot more fun than you think. So we will hopefully see you next week, and look for the statistics class in a few days, plus another problem solving method next week also.